Hey everyone, it's Andy with this week's Fountain of Youth episode, and I am trying to get my Instagram connected. I think it's connected. Wow, technology. Anyways, hi everyone, it's Andy here with Fountain of Youth, and if you've been following me over the last several weeks, on the Fountain of Youth and on my Chronically Healthy Life show, whichever way you're following me, Chronic Health Collective, and even my daily post, we've been unpacking some pretty big topics over these last few weeks. And, we talked about autoimmunity and the spike protein, like the dangers of the spike protein in our bodies, right? We talked about exogenous peptides, how everyone is jumping onto the peptide train. And last night, if you caught my Transformation Tuesday training, I talked about some holistic strategies to be more cancer resistant, because there's so many things that is in our environment that is driving cancer, specifically stage 4 cancers. And there's a lot of studies showing that the mRNA vaccines was part of that, right? And I talked about a little bit about that in the autoimmunity and the spike protein episode. If you haven't watched that, make sure you watch that. And then, of course, we just had Thanksgiving just a few weeks ago. And, Thanksgiving leading on to Christmas is usually a month and a half of chaos for your body, right? It's when everything, all the work that we've done for the last year gets thrown out the window, because it's party after party. You're eating out, you're drinking, you are just relaxing, and all the progress is gone, right? So yesterday, I was sharing a metabolic reset, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that today, why that is so important, right? I shared my 3-day challenge, my sardine challenge, right? So today, I really want to put this all together, right? And talk about why all this is so important to make your body a place where cancer and autoimmune conditions, they struggle to survive, right? But before I go into that, I'd love to get into my disclaimer. This is very important. I am a functional longevity coach. I'm not a doctor, so none of the stuff I talk about about Fountain of Youth with Andy is medical advice. This is obviously for educational purposes. These are strategies that I learned and that I do myself. And there are a lot of studies, clinical studies, and other, holistic doctors and practitioners that use some of these strategies I talk about. But always work with, your doctor before you make any changes at all to any protocols for any health conditions you have, right? But, I'm here, to help you understand your body's terrain, and really how to support it, and more importantly, natural ways, and using your body's own healing light to support it, right? So with that out of the way, I love to talk about what is terrain, right? I talked a little bit about terrain last night on my Transformation Tuesday. And when the terrain, just like if you envision a garden, if a garden has everything it needs, you have bountiful produce, right? You have bountiful vegetables, everything's just growing well, right? You got a lot of health in the vegetables. But if your terrain is poisoned, then it becomes a big problem, right? Because a diseased terrain, it feeds cancer, it feeds all these autoimmune conditions, right? And that can be a really big problem, because a lot of people don't think about that, right? Because what does a disease-friendly terrain look like? A terrain that is going to feed disease usually looks like this. You have a lot of chronic inflammation throughout the body, so it's out of control. You have toxic overload. You have chemicals in your body from the food, from the water, from the air, from your toothpaste, from your cleaning supplies, your clothes. We can talk about days for this, but most importantly, toxic overload from these mRNA vaccines. These are all very dangerous. These are all toxins in our body that we can't get out, and our bodies are screaming to try to get these toxic chemicals out, which is causing chronic inflammation. And then another thing that feeds chronic conditions, and especially cancer, is high blood sugar, right? I think so many people, especially now this season where everything is so carb heavy, you got the amazing pastas, you got the pizzas, all the breads, all the rice, right? And even if, a lot of people don't think about it, even if you're eating a lot of carby vegetables, there's a lot of sugar that's going into your body, all these fruits and stuff, right? So we have to be really careful about high blood sugar, because high blood sugar feeds things in our body that we don't want to feed, right? And of course, our bodies are low in ketones, right? Depending on what diet you're on, your body may be low in ketones, right? Ketones, our body has the ability to burn sugar or fat or ketones as fuel. And if you don't get fat, like good fat, in your body, you're not going to have ketones. And, one of the amazing things is if you have ketones, cancer can't feed on that, right? They feed on sugar, not ketones, right? And of course, our immune system, like I talk about this over the last several weeks, over the last month, it's getting just so exhausted and so confused. And basically we are like a cup of water that just spilling out. We just keep throwing, that analogy, you have a cup of water, half a cup of water. And how do you get the water out of the cup, right? You can start throwing stones into it, right? So just think about it. For each little pebble you throw into it, these are things that's causing your body to be more inflamed. And as you keep throwing these pebbles, and these are things that can cause chronic inflammation, at some point, the cup of water spills over, right? And your body now is just so confused, it's so overwhelmed that it's lost its ability to repair and regenerate itself, right? So that's why it's really important, like the spike protein that we talked about, that's really causing immune confusion. It's causing autoimmunity and can be causing cancer. So we talk about the spike protein. We definitely want to get that out because the spike protein can cause inflammation. If you missed that episode, reach out to me and, I'll give you some ideas how to test for the spike protein and even some strategies to detox it out, along with, the doctors that I follow to have their protocols for that, right? I talked last night about, a holistic cancer resistance. If you missed my Transformation Tuesday training last night, reach out to me or reach out to one of the people that watched it, and maybe they can go over it. But basically, you really want to be changing your environment, getting your body to be stronger against cancer, but also changing your environment so cancer can't thrive, right? And of course, with the 3-day sardine challenge that I just started yesterday, it's all about resetting your metabolic efficiency, right? Because like our bodies are designed to be able to burn sugar or fat for fuel, like a hybrid car, but our bodies have forgotten how to burn fat for fuel. And if you're dependent on sugar for fuel, it can lead to a lot of problems. Like, I talk about, it can lead to diabetes, it can lead to Alzheimer's, it can lead to brain fog, joint pains, but more importantly, high sugars feed cancer. So that's a big deal. We really don't want our body dependent on sugar, nor have high levels of it, right? So if we know what fuels cancer, if we know what fuels these autoimmune conditions, like I said, diabetes, even like heart conditions with high blood sugar, right? Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all these joint pains, right? We can do something about it, right? And that's what I really want to talk about. So first of all, you want to detox and improve your immune system, right? Basically, if your immune system is overloaded and not working, everything goes to hell, right? So we always want to be boosting our immune system so our immune system can protect us, right? Even if there are toxins coming into our body, or even if we're being exposed to spike protein, if our immune system is strong, we're good, So, some of the ways to make sure to have regular detox, right? You want to have bowel movements every day, right? Number two, you want to have at least 2 or 3 bowel movements a day. If you are struggling to have one a day, that's already a problem. That means your body is not getting rid of the garbage quick enough, and you want to work with someone to either change your diet or figure out what's going on, because if you're not having bowel movements, you're not getting the garbage out of your body, right? Another great tip is to sweat a little every day, right? If you live in a hot place like us in Houston, just go outside, go for a walk. You can be sweating, right? Sweating is a great way to detox. When you detox through your sweat, you detox a lot of these chemicals, a lot of these heavy metals out through your sweat, right? If you have access to infrared sauna, that's a great way to really sweat it out. Hydrate, not just drinking water, because so many people think that hydrating is just about drinking water. You need electrolytes. I cannot state that enough, right? Electrolytes are so important to be having with your water. For me, for my water, I just sprinkle a little bit of Himalayan salt into my water, and that's what I'm using as my electrolytes. But there are a lot of other electrolytes out there. Of course, we love our Lifewave cellular dyes, which also have the electrolytes our bodies have, right? So if you don't know which electrolyte to use, there's a lot of them out there, but a lot of them are really high in sugar, right, for the flavoring, and a lot of them has just regular salt. I'm not going to name any brands, but there are a lot of big brands out there that people are using, and is using table salt. That's the worst electrolyte you can have, because table salt is the worst salt you can have, right? And then, of course, support your liver, right? Your liver is your detox organ. Don't abuse the liver, right? So if you have a lot of foods that are heavy in chemicals, if you're drinking a lot, those things can really, hurt your liver. So what's a great way to support your body, right? Like, we are always looking at holistic ways to support our body. And since we've been introduced to Lifewave 2.5 years ago, I like to figure out how we can use some of the Lifewave strategies to support our body. And, one of the ones that I really love, and which is sort of like the baseline that I wear every day and that I recommend for everyone, this is almost like the one that is going to get your body strong, right? Because the X39, it basically boosts your overall wellness by boosting your GHK-Cu, which has been shown to help regenerate and repair your body faster. And with elevated GHK-Cu, it also elevates stem cells. So with stem cells, of course, your body's going to repair a lot faster. So you really want to elevate that GHK-Cu. I talked about exogenous GHK-Cu that is available, but why inject something in your body when you have the ability to create your own using the GHK-Cu creation from the X39? And of course, X39 also boosts your glutathione, and glutathione is the master antioxidant, which is so important for supporting your detox pathways. So always start with X39. I think this is a great way to make your body stronger and to help you detox, because it's boosting GHK and glutathione. Now, when it comes down to chronic inflammation, that means your body is stressed out all the time. Your body, how you have two modes. You have the fight or flight response, or the rest and digest response, your parasympathetic and your sympathetic system. Basically, it's just a simple way. Your nervous system is, you're either going to be relaxed and your body's repairing, or you're stressed out and you're survival mode and you're always go, 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 go. And that's what happens if your body's in chronic stress. It's going to drive chronic inflammation, right? So already here, it's coming in from your environment, but your mental state can cause chronic stress too, right? So you really need to figure out ways how to chill the hell out, right? Seriously, your nervous system really needs to go into the parasympathetic, where you are in the calm, relaxed mode, where your body can actually rest and repair itself, right? And simple upgrades. I talked about this a little bit in my cold plunges, right? If you have access to cold plunge, or even access to a regular swimming pool right now, it's getting cold. The water's probably pretty chilly. When you're in the cold water, your mind can't think of anything else. You can only calm down and relax. So that's a great way. If you're not quite there yet, or you think that is crazy jumping into the cold or walking out into the cold, do meditation, like 5 to 10 minutes of breathing, prayer, or just gratitude meditation each day will do wonders for your nervous system, right? It's literally going to lower your chronic mental stress. And another thing that we love to do is, once again, I love to always talk about how we can support with Lifewave, right? Lifewave, the X39, there are studies showing with the GHKCU elevating. We talked about helping your body repair. We talked about boosting glutathione, but more importantly, it actually helps lower inflammation. There are studies showing that within, the 24 hours, it's lowering inflammation by 30%, right? And if you even want to go a little further, I like to stack these is with the Eon patch. The Eon patch is basically the X39 and Eon it's sort of like the calm and repair wellness pack, right? So that's something that I really suggest for you to try if you really want to calm the mind out, because the Eon really just chills your mind out. I love it when I go to sleep. I pop it on my forehead, go to sleep, and I sleep like a baby, right? No more frenetic thoughts while I'm thinking, going to sleep, no crazy ass dreams, just calm, relax, where your body gets into this parasympathetic system to start repairing the body, right? And then, of course, if we want our body to not feed chronic conditions and the big C cancer, we really need to reset our sugar, right? I talked about this, right? Sugar really is the fertilizer for all the wrong cells in our body, right? And yesterday I started on my 3-day sardine challenge, which is great because it's a great way for those that want to use intermittent fasting, right? Intermittent fasting have shown over 3 to 5 days that your body can go into autophagy. It's eating out the bad cells, but more importantly, your body switches away from sugar as fuel and starts burning fat in your body as ketones, right? But a lot of people, they find that intermittent fasting is so hard to do, right? But intermittent fasting is one of the best ways to lower your sugar and boost your ketones. So that's what the 3-day sardine challenge is all about. It's really about trying to boost your ketones up. And I'm on day 2 today. I'm going to be sharing my results probably later on after this episode. But, the goal of the 3-day challenge or intermittent fasting, it's really quite simple. You really want to change the fuel supply, right? You want to move from sugar burning to fat burning, right? You want to be cutting back on refined carbohydrates and sugar. And one of the best ways to do that is to prioritize more healthy proteins and healthy fats, right? If you need some tips on that, please reach out to me. That's an episode in itself, right? But the healthy fats are so important. Fat does not make you fat. Remember that. Sugar actually makes you fat, right? But unhealthy fats technically can make you fat, but healthy fats actually make you skinny, right? So just remember, healthy fats help you burn fat, right? And one of the things that I think is so important is to walk 10-15 minutes after meals, right? That's something that me and Mina like to do after a meal. We like to go walk around our lake, right? Or walk around the neighborhood. It's just a great way. So you have the digestion going after you eat. And most people, after they eat, they're just sitting in front of the TV and watching Netflix or whatever it is, right? But anyways, once again, I always like to talk about how we can use Lifewave products to support this holistic journey, right? So when we're talking about sugar addictions, or your body is addicted to sugar, one of the products that we have is the SP6 Complete. This is great to curb cravings. It's a great way to curb your appetite, and it helps you balance your sugar cravings. So if you have problems trying to cut sugar, maybe you try, reach out to me to see if you want to try out the SP6 Complete. I've been seeing some really good results for this, using this in conjunction with intermittent fasting, using this in conjunction on a ketogenic diet. It really helps to take away a lot of your sugar cravings. So if you haven't tried it, reach out to me. It's an amazing product. And once again, always stack it with your X39, because the X39 is the backbone of getting your body to heal and regenerate itself, right? That's really so important, right? Once again, it's just your body creating its own peptides, the GHKCU. So we talked about peptides, and and these are all peptides that your body can make. So stop renting your your peptides from outside. Stop getting exogenous peptides. I know peptides are the big words right now. Everyone's getting injections, everyone getting IV infusions or popping pills, but they can come with big price tags. And, if you abuse them, they can cause possible side effects, or even get your body to stop making these peptides naturally, right? I did an episode on that last week. So if you missed it, please watch it. Exogenous peptides are powerful, right? But they are not very accessible, and they are definitely not affordable, right? So that's something you have to think about. While Lifewave, we use a different path, right? Instead of injecting peptides, we use light energy, your own infrared light and heat energy, to signal your body to make your own peptides. This is endogenous peptide. This is making your own peptides, people. This is as holistic as it can get. The X39 stimulates GHKCU. Like I said, this is the peptide that we all should be having, and GHKCU declines with age. So once again, people are getting old not because they're aging. People are getting old because they're declining GHKCU and ultimately declining stem cells. So if we raise GHKCU in our bodies, we can activate dormant stem cells when GHKCU gets activated and raised up, and we can actually generate new stem cells. So we can be aging, but we could be aging backwards. We can actually be getting younger as we age. Wouldn't that be exciting, right? And of course, these peptides, they support tissue repair. They support collagen, right? Collagen is so important. It's in your joints, it's in your hair, it's in your skin, it's in your nails, right? And most importantly, GHKCU repairs DNA damage, right? And that is crucial if you are having autoimmune conditions or even worried about cancer, right? It's very crucial to repair DNA damage. And then elevating these peptides can help you have better sleep, boost your immune system. It's just so amazing. It just gives you better, what's the best word I'm trying to think here? Better ability for your body to function naturally, right? For me, being holistic is not trying to force things into your body. It's trying to get your body to generate what it's meant to generate, right? So stop, going out there and just pumping up on these peptides when your body can make your own, right? I think that is so important. So to recap today, start with just one thing. Start with one pillar, right? You know, if you're going to be detoxing and draining all these toxins out of your body, make sure you move and sweat daily, right? Could be from a walk. If you're more athletic, you know, go into your jump into whatever exercise you love to do. It could be a HIIT exercise, it could be cycling, it could be swimming, badminton, you know, pickleball, whatever. Do something that you enjoy, that you're going to move and sweat. Remember to hydrate with electrolytes. Those minerals are so important. And of course, you know, detoxing is so important. Having the X39, boosting the GHKCU and the glutathione, right? Lowering inflammation, daily breath work, prayer, gratitude, right? Meditation, so important. Protect your sleep routine. I don't care what it is. We should all be getting minimum of 6 to 8 hours of sleep, right? And it should be rested sleep. It's not about just the time of the sleep, but how rested you are when you're sleeping, right? You know, you want that deep sleep, you know, when you start dreaming. Reset your body, right? I think this is very important. You know, intermittent fasting is a great free way to do it, but for most people, that is just way too hard, right? So, and that's why I introduced this 3-day reset with the sardines challenge, right? Remember to walk after your meals. And if you're having problems getting sugar out of your diet, you know, reach out to me about the SP6s that can help with your sugar cravings. And regenerate and build your strength. I think that's really important when we're getting older, right? The stronger your body, the stronger your immune system is going to be. So I always recommend some light resistance training. You don't have to overdo it. Like 2-3 times a week is all you really need to do. 20-30 minutes per training session. It doesn't have to be hard, people, right? And I can't stress enough, you know, patch of the X39 for overall wellness each day, right? You know, it's really about choosing one pillar, just one protocol, right? Or maybe just one of these patches a day, right? To help you stack your energy, to help your body be stronger, not only in strength and flexibility, but your immune system too, right? So it's so important. You know, you have control of your health. You have control of keeping your body so strong that autoimmune conditions and cancer cannot grasp it. We're not powerless, right? We're not just about our own genes, you know, or our past choices, right? Or even if you got a scary diagnosis, right? We can reverse a lot of these conditions if we take action, right? You just have to change your terrain, right? You know, your body, you know, doesn't need to be a terrain that feeds cancer or these autoimmune conditions, right? We can change that one step at a time. You know, and to recap, you know, this has been a little longer than usual. I'm trying to keep it all under 30 minutes. Once again, this is not medical advice, right? Reach out to your doctor to go through any of these strategies I'm talking about. But I am here every week with Fountain Youth of Andy to educate you, to empower you to have better conversations and better choices to elevate your body's own health and longevity. So if you want ongoing support, education, or, you know, join my community, reach out to me at longevityofandy.com, and I look forward to improving your terrain together. Goodbye now.